Hunger hijack, reflex. Your stomach growls. It rumbles, protests, demands attention. You think this is a simple signal, a biological instinct telling you that you need food. Hunger is nature's way of keeping you alive, right? But what if that rumble isn't just a straightforward call for nourishment? What if your hunger is not a pure instinct, but a hijacked reflex, a subtle manipulation by your brain to seize control? Hunger, in this view, becomes obedience disguised as instinct. Consider the complexity behind that growl. It is not just your stomach sending a signal. It is a conversation between your body, your brain, your emotions, and even your environment. Your brain doesn't passively receive the state of your digestive system. It actively interprets, amplifies, or even manufactures sensations of hunger based on far more than calorie deficits. Imagine hunger as a tool, a lever your brain uses to steer behavior, to assert dominance over your will. When your stomach growls loudly, it commands your attention. It demands action. It compels you to seek food, to satisfy the need, and in doing so, it momentarily suspends your freedom to choose otherwise. This hijacking becomes clear when you realize how often hunger arises, not from actual energy need, but from emotional states, social cues, or habitual patterns. You might feel hungry when bored, stressed, anxious, or lonely. You eat not because your body is starved, but because your brain craves control, comfort, or distraction. In these moments, hunger becomes obedience. The brain cloaks a complex web of psychological urges and survival strategies behind a primal signal. It turns decision-making into reflex, making you comply with an internal command that seems undeniable and instinctual. Evolutionary biology supports this dynamic. Hunger evolved as a survival mechanism, a hardwired signal to fuel your body. But human brains grew far beyond simple survival. We developed desires, fears, and compulsions. Hunger signals became intertwined with emotional states, learned behaviors, and cultural influences. Consider the marketing and societal factors that exploit this reflex. Advertisements trigger cravings by linking food with pleasure, status, or identity. Your brain responds by intensifying hunger signals, hijacking your instincts to drive consumption beyond necessity. The growl becomes a manipulative echo, pushing obedience to consumer culture. Neuroscience reveals how hunger involves complex brain regions: hypothalamus, limbic system, and prefrontal cortex, each playing roles in regulating appetite, emotion, and self-control. When the brain's impulse centers dominate, hunger feels urgent and uncontrollable. When higher reasoning engages, you may resist. This struggle shows how hunger is not just a physiological need, but a battlefield for control. The hunger hijack reflex also explains why dieting and self-control often feel like wars within. Your body sends primal commands. Your mind tries to override them. The growling stomach is a signal, but also a challenge, to obey or to assert agency. In extreme cases, this hijack leads to disorders like binge eating or anorexia, where the relationship between hunger and control fractures dramatically. The instinct is weaponized against well-being, illustrating the perilous power of this reflex. Recognizing hunger as a hijacked reflex empowers you. It invites awareness, distinguishing true physiological need from brain-driven commands for obedience. It opens the possibility of reclaiming agency, responding thoughtfully rather than reflexively. So, next time your stomach growls, pause. Ask yourself, is this hunger genuine need, or is it control disguised as instinct? Understanding the hunger hijack reflex reveals a hidden dialogue inside you, a constant negotiation between body, brain, and will. In that space between growl and response lies the power to choose, not just to obey instinct, but to master it. Sweetness as surveillance. Sugar. It tastes sweet, comforting, even addictive. But beneath this simple pleasure lies a profound interplay between biology, behavior, and control. A phenomenon I call sweetness as surveillance. When you consume sugar, it lights up the very same centers in your brain that govern loyalty, attachment, and social bonding. The more you crave it, the more your biology subtly bends to external chemical rewards, surveilling and shaping your desires without you even realizing. At the heart of this paradox is the brain's reward system. The nucleus accumbens, the ventral tegmental area, and other limbic structures respond powerfully to sugar intake. These areas release dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, and reinforcement. When sugar floods your system, it hijacks this circuitry, mimicking the neurochemical signatures of social connection and trust. Why does this matter? Because loyalty, the deep, often unconscious drive to bond with others or groups, shares the same neural pathways as sugar's reward. This means that consuming sweetness is not just about flavor or energy. It's an internal signal that taps into our primal wiring for attachment and belonging. In other words, sugar acts like a chemical spy, surveilling your brain's loyalty circuits, subtly bending your biology toward craving more. The sensation of sweetness triggers a feedback loop. You feel rewarded, your brain remembers, and you seek the source again, reinforcing patterns of dependence. This surveillance extends beyond individual craving. Sugar consumption affects societal behaviors, marketing, and cultural norms. Food industries exploit this biological wiring, embedding sweetness into products to capture attention and build consumer loyalty. Your biology becomes a collaborator in this surveillance system, shaped by and shaping external chemical rewards. Consider how quickly sweetness conditions preferences. Babies and children show innate attraction to sweet tastes, but repeated exposure reinforces this craving, making it harder to resist later in life. The biology of sweetness surveillance shapes development, steering choices and behaviors in ways that serve external interests. Moreover, sugar's impact on the brain influences mood, stress response, and cognition. Craving and consuming sugar temporarily modulates emotional states, providing fleeting comfort. This effect strengthens the surveillance loop, where emotional needs and biological cravings entwine. The paradox deepens when we recognize that sugar's mimicry of loyalty signals can distort authentic social connections. If your brain's reward system is frequently occupied by chemical rewards from sugar, it may dampen sensitivity to genuine social bonding cues. The sweetness surveils your loyalty, diverting it towards substances rather than people. This insight challenges how we think about addiction and choice. Sugar is often dismissed as mere indulgence, but understanding sweetness as surveillance reveals how deeply biology is co-opted by external chemical rewards. It is not just a matter of willpower, but a complex negotiation between innate wiring and environmental manipulation. Yet, awareness is the first step toward reclaiming autonomy. Recognizing how sugar activates loyalty centers invites a conscious approach to consumption. It encourages seeking balance, finding pleasure and connection beyond chemical shortcuts. Scientific studies exploring dopamine release, reward prediction errors, and habit formation underscore the power of sugar surveillance on the brain. These findings have implications for public health, nutrition policy, and personal well-being. In practical terms, reducing sugar intake can recalibrate your reward system, allowing your biology to reorient toward natural sources of loyalty and fulfillment. Meaningful relationships, purposeful activities, and authentic experiences. Sweetness as surveillance is a biological paradox, where pleasure and control intertwine in the depths of the mind. Your cravings are not merely personal, they are shaped by a chemical dialogue between your brain and the world. A surveillance that bends biology toward external rewards. So, next time you reach for something sweet, consider what's truly at play. Is it just taste, or a deeper signal lighting up the circuits of loyalty within? Understanding this can empower you to navigate cravings with awareness, reclaiming your biology from subtle chemical surveillance. Smile submission code. Your smile, that simple curve of your lips that lights up your face, that universal expression you wear countless times a day. We often think smiles come from joy, happiness, or affection, a spontaneous reflection of inner warmth. But what if your smile didn't evolve from joy at all? What if, deep in your biology, your smile is a code of submission, a silent surrender etched into your very being? Look closely at the origins of the human smile. In the animal kingdom, baring teeth is rarely a sign of friendliness. It is a warning, a threat, a declaration of dominance. Yet, paradoxically, in primates and early humans, the display of teeth gradually transformed into a gesture of appeasement, a way to say, "I am not a threat. Please do not harm me." This was no joyful grin, but a strategic act of survival. Your smile is an evolutionary echo of that primal submission. Beneath the surface, warmth lies a nervous code, a signal sent to others that you yield, that you are safe, that you do not wish conflict. It is a social contract, a subtle dance where showing your teeth becomes a way to prevent violence, to placate, to fit in. Think about moments when you smile, not because you're happy, but because you feel pressured, in a tense meeting, when facing authority, or when navigating social uncertainty. That smile is not joy. It is fear wrapped in muscles, a fragile shield against rejection, punishment, or harm. The smile is a mask, beautiful and disarming, that conceals the undercurrent of anxiety and submission. We smile because we are afraid not to, because silence or sternness might provoke hostility. It is a code wired into your nervous system, a survival mechanism encoded in your genes. Neuroscientific studies reveal that the smile triggers mirror neurons in others, encouraging reciprocal non-aggression and social bonding. It pacifies the group dynamic, maintaining harmony and reducing conflict. But this harmony often depends on underlying power imbalances. Those who smile submit. Those who don't might assert dominance. Culturally, we have polished the smile into a symbol of politeness, friendliness, and warmth. Yet, the shadow of its primal origin lingers. The social smile can become performative, a learned behavior to mask discomfort, mask fear, or mask true feelings. Smiling when you don't feel like it is a submission to social expectations. This raises profound questions about authenticity and freedom. When your smile arises from fear or necessity, where does genuine expression begin? How often do you surrender your truth behind a practiced smile, afraid of the consequences of showing anger, sadness, or defiance? Psychologists note the smile submission code operates in many social contexts, from customer service workers forced to maintain cheerful demeanors, to individuals in oppressive environments using smiles as protective armor. The smile becomes a language of survival, not just joy. But recognizing this hidden code also offers power. Awareness of the smile's double meaning frees you from automatic submission. You can choose when to smile, not out of fear, but from genuine connection. You can learn to read smiles in others not only as joy, but as complex signals of social negotiation. In your own life, observe when your smile feels automatic, when it masks something deeper. Notice how it changes interactions, diffuses tension, or sometimes leaves you feeling disconnected from your authentic self. The smile is both a bridge and a barrier, a tender weapon in the social battlefield. So, your smile, beautiful and universal, is not just a sign of happiness. It is an ancient submission code, a baring of teeth in surrender, a signal born in fear, carried across millennia. You smile because, deep down, you are afraid not to. Yet, within this fear lies the possibility of transformation, to smile freely, fully, and authentically. Understanding the smile submission code is a step toward reclaiming your true expression. It invites you to see beneath the surface, to honor the complex interplay of biology and culture shaping your face. And in doing so, it opens the door to genuine connection, beyond survival, beyond fear, into true joy. Cold panic loop. Shivering triggers panic, even when you're safe. Cold bypasses thought, forcing compliance through primal compliance signals. This is the essence of what can be called the cold panic loop, a fascinating and deeply primal response rooted in our biology and evolutionary history. Today, let's explore this phenomenon in detail, unraveling the science, the psychology, and the lived experience behind how cold can hijack the mind, driving panic in the absence of any real external threat. Imagine you find yourself in a cold room. Perhaps you're indoors, wearing warm clothes, away from any immediate danger. Yet suddenly a chill runs down your spine. Your muscles involuntarily begin to contract and relax rapidly, shivering, to generate heat. This is an automatic bodily reaction to preserve core temperature. But as shivering intensifies, your heart rate may rise, your breath may become shallow, and your mind starts to race. Even though the environment poses no danger, a wave of panic sweeps over you, sometimes overwhelming. This disconnect between your objective safety and your subjective experience is the cold panic loop in action. At its core, this loop operates on a primal level of the nervous system, one that evolved long before humans developed complex reasoning. Our ancestors faced harsh environments where cold was a constant, often deadly threat. The body developed tightly linked survival mechanisms, sensory input detecting cold triggers rapid physiological responses, shivering to generate heat, vasoconstriction to conserve blood flow, increased metabolic activity, and simultaneously activates neural circuits responsible for alertness and urgency. The brain perceives these internal signals as danger because cold can quickly lead to hypothermia, frostbite, or death if not mitigated. This alarm system is designed to bypass slow, deliberate thought. It doesn't wait for conscious appraisal of safety. Instead, it uses fast automatic pathways to generate immediate behavioral responses. This is why the panic you feel is so compelling. It emerges before reason can intervene. The brainstem and hypothalamus, ancient brain structures regulating homeostasis, send strong survival signals. The amygdala, the emotional hub often called the brain's alarm center, amplifies the sense of threat. Together, they orchestrate a potent state of urgency designed to propel you into action, find warmth, seek shelter, survive. However, in the modern world, we often experience cold in safe, controlled settings where survival isn't actually at stake. The signals persist, but the context has changed. Instead of running from a freezing blizzard, you might be sitting quietly, wrapped in a blanket. Yet your body and brain still respond as if your life depended on immediate escape. This mismatch can trap you in a feedback loop, the cold panic loop, where physiological shivering feeds panic, which intensifies bodily tension, which in turn deepens the shivering and panic. To better understand this, think about anxiety disorders or panic attacks, where bodily sensations like heart palpitations or shortness of breath trigger escalating fear. In a similar way, cold sensations can create a bodily feedback loop. Your body reacts strongly. Your mind interprets these reactions as signs of danger. Your anxiety rises, which then further stimulates the body. This cyclical pattern can feel inescapable, the cold panic. Loop's intensity varies between individuals and situations. Some people are more sensitive to temperature changes or more prone to panic responses due to genetic, psychological, or environmental factors. For instance, individuals with anxiety disorders or heightened interoception, the ability to perceive internal bodily sensations, may experience stronger or more frequent loops. Trauma or past experiences of cold-related danger can sensitize these responses further, embedding a deeper threat association. Breaking free from this loop requires a nuanced understanding and conscious intervention. Awareness is the first step. Recognizing that panic arises not from present danger, but from an automatic primal response helps disentangle fear from reality. Techniques like deep breathing calm the nervous system by stimulating the parasympathetic branch, counteracting the fight-or-flight response. Mindfulness encourages observing sensations without judgment or fear, reducing the amplification of panic signals. Gradual exposure to cold, when safely managed, can also desensitize the nervous system. Practices like cold showers, ice baths, or controlled outdoor exposure activate adaptive responses, building resilience and retraining the brain to interpret cold sensations as less threatening. These methods are used therapeutically to reduce panic sensitivity and improve emotional regulation. The cold panic loop also highlights how closely body and mind are entwined. Physical sensations can profoundly shape mental states, and vice versa. This interplay reminds us that treating panic or anxiety isn't solely about changing thoughts, but also about addressing bodily experiences. Therapeutic approaches that integrate breathwork, somatic awareness, and physical conditioning tap into this embodied dimension. Consider real-world examples where cold-induced panic manifests vividly. High-altitude climbers or divers submerged in cold water often report sudden waves of panic triggered by intense cold, despite their training and awareness of safety protocols. These acute moments demand immediate physiological and psychological management to avoid dangerous escalation. Understanding the cold panic loop in these contexts can be life-saving. Even everyday experiences illustrate this loop. Have you ever felt a shiver in a mildly chilly room, noticed your heart racing, and suddenly felt anxious or restless without clear cause? This seemingly minor sensation can ripple into a full panic reaction if not recognized and managed. The cold panic loop is not reserved for extreme conditions. It dwells within everyday life, quietly influencing how we feel and react. From an evolutionary perspective, the cold panic loop embodies the brain's prioritization of survival above all else. It sacrifices nuance and deliberation in favor of speed and intensity. This better safe than sorry strategy once saved countless lives, but now can manifest as maladaptive panic in safe environments. Yet, this ancient mechanism is also a source of profound insight. It reveals how deeply ingrained and automatic our survival systems are, how they shape not only our physiology, but our subjective experience of reality. It calls us to greater self-awareness and compassion for ourselves and others navigating these involuntary responses. In sum, the cold panic loop is a compelling example of the mind-body connection at its most primal and potent. Shivering, our body's urgent cry for heat, can ripple into panic, hijacking thought and emotion, compelling compliance through ancient survival codes. By understanding this loop, we reclaim agency, learning to observe, soothe, and gradually transform the primal signals that once ruled our fate. So next time you feel that unexpected chill set off waves of panic, remember, it is not your fault nor a sign of actual danger. It is the echo of an ancient system striving to protect you, albeit imperfectly in modern life. With awareness and care, you can break the cycle, turning primal compliance into conscious choice, finding calm amid the cold. Yawn Contagion Trap. Yawning feels like a simple, natural response to tiredness or boredom, a way for your body to cool the brain or signal a need for rest. But beneath this familiar gesture lies a fascinating and subtle social phenomenon. Yawns spread not merely because of fatigue, but as part of a mirror-based system tied to submission, empathy, and social bonding. This is the yawning contagion trap, where copying another's yawn is less about your own state and more about signaling connection, vulnerability, or even broadcasting weakness within a group dynamic. When you see someone yawn, often you feel the urge to yawn too. This contagious yawning isn't just a reflex, it's deeply rooted in your brain's mirror neuron system, networks that allow you to imitate and understand others' actions and emotions. These mirror neurons activate when you observe someone else yawning, triggering a similar response in yourself. It's as if your brain simulates their state, syncing you in subtle ways. But why would your body mirror such a seemingly trivial act? Evolutionary biology suggests yawning contagion is linked to social cohesion. In many social animals, yawning serves as a nonverbal signal of submission or lowered aggression. By mirroring a yawn, you implicitly acknowledge the other's state and reduce social tension. It's a way of saying, I am not a threat, I'm aligned with you. This mirror-based submission functions as a social lubricant. When group members share synchronized yawns, it strengthens bonds and fosters empathy. You signal openness and vulnerability, inviting mutual trust. The contagion effect ensures that yawns ripple through the group, broadcasting a collective state that helps maintain harmony. Yet, this can also become a trap. Because yawns are linked to signaling weakness or lowered guard, contagion may sometimes be exploited, consciously or unconsciously, to manipulate social dynamics. For example, if one individual yawns excessively, it might broadcast vulnerability, eliciting dominance from others or shifting group hierarchies. The yawning contagion trap reveals how something as mundane as a yawn operates on complex social and neurological levels. It's not just about your own fatigue, it's about your connection to others, the invisible dance of submission and affiliation playing out in everyday interactions. Psychological studies find that people with higher empathy levels are more susceptible to contagious yawning, underscoring its role in social cognition. Conversely, individuals with certain disorders, like autism or schizophrenia, may show reduced yawn contagion, reflecting differences in social processing. Even cultural factors influence yawning contagion. In some societies, public yawning is considered rude or a sign of disrespect, which can suppress the natural mirror response. Yet, the underlying neurological mechanisms remain, demonstrating the universal biological roots of this behavior. So, next time you catch yourself yawning after someone else does, remember, you're not just tired. You're participating in an ancient, intricate system of social signaling. Your yawn mirrors theirs, signaling submission or vulnerability, weaving you into the subtle fabric of group dynamics. This yawning contagion trap shows how deeply intertwined our bodies and brains are with social connection. Even our simplest gestures carry layers of meaning, echoing the evolutionary story of cooperation, trust, and survival. In embracing this understanding, you gain insight into the silent languages we share, the nonverbal codes that bind us. A yawn is never just a yawn, it is a signal, a bridge, and sometimes a strategic move in the social dance. So, the next time you yawn after someone else, smile inwardly knowing you're caught in the yawning contagion trap, mirroring, submitting, and connecting in a gesture older and richer than mere tiredness. Nostalgia rewiring trigger. You've probably felt it. The sudden bittersweet wave that sweeps over you when a song, a smell, or an old photograph pulls you back into a past moment. We call this feeling nostalgia, but nostalgia is not just a gentle emotion or a harmless reverie. It is something far more powerful and complex. It is an override, a neurological command that rewires your memory and emotions to bind you to things that no longer serve your present or future. Nostalgia is a trap, a rewiring trigger that holds your mind captive in the echoes of a past that's already gone. At first glance, nostalgia seems like a simple longing, a sentimental yearning for a time when life felt simpler, safer, or happier. You might think of it as a warm comfort, a balm for loneliness or hardship. Yet, beneath its soft glow lies a mechanism that can hijack your brain's reward and memory systems, creating a feedback loop that distorts your relationship with reality and stifles growth. Our brains do not store memories like fixed photographs. They encode them dynamically, reconstructing the past each time we recall it. Nostalgia exploits this malleability. When triggered, it selectively rewrites memories to emphasize positive aspects, suppressing pain, failure, or change. This idealized past becomes a seductive story that your brain prefers to believe, even when it no longer reflects truth. Consider how nostalgia rewires your emotions. It floods your system with dopamine and opioids, chemicals linked to pleasure and reward, creating a neurochemical hug that feels deeply satisfying. This biochemical reinforcement encourages you to seek out nostalgic experiences repeatedly, reinforcing patterns of thought and behavior anchored in old narratives. But what if those old narratives limit you? Nostalgia can chain you to habits, beliefs, or relationships that once had meaning but now hinder your growth. By overriding your current experience with a longing for the past, nostalgia blinds you to new opportunities and realities. It keeps you trapped in familiar patterns, safe but stagnant. For example, someone might cling to memories of a youthful friendship or a past success, allowing that memory to shape their identity and choices long after circumstances have changed. The rewiring effect of nostalgia means their brain prioritizes the comfort of the old story over the uncertainty of change, resisting evolution even when it is necessary. Psychologically, this creates a paradox. Nostalgia feels like a refuge, but can become a prison. The mind's desire for coherence and meaning drives it to rewrite history in comforting ways, but this can distort perception and foster denial. It's a coping strategy that can turn maladaptive when overused. Research supports these ideas. Studies show nostalgia can boost mood temporarily and reduce feelings of loneliness. Yet, excessive nostalgia correlates with rumination, depressive symptoms, and resistance to change. It acts as a double-edged sword, a fleeting fix with long-term costs. Nostalgia's rewiring also plays a social role. Shared memories bind communities and cultures, creating collective identity. But these collective nostalgic narratives can resist social progress, idealizing past eras while ignoring their flaws. The rewiring effect extends from individual minds to entire societies, shaping history and politics. Understanding nostalgia as an override challenges how you respond to those feelings. Instead of passively succumbing to sentimental longing, you can recognize nostalgia's power to manipulate your memory and emotions. This awareness allows you to break free from its grip, honoring your past without being enslaved by it. In moments when nostalgia strikes, ask yourself, am I remembering or am I being rewired? Is this feeling guiding me toward growth or anchoring me in a comforting illusion? Awareness of nostalgia's true nature is the first step toward reclaiming your narrative. You can begin to rewrite your story consciously, integrating past lessons without being trapped by selective memory. You can create new memories that serve your present self and open doors to the future. Nostalgia is not just a feeling. It is a powerful override of your brain's memory and reward systems. It rewires your past to hold you captive, binding you to what once was instead of what could be. But within that knowledge lies freedom. You are not your nostalgic memories. You are the author of your ongoing story. Recognizing nostalgia's rewiring trigger empowers you to step beyond the past's hold and embrace the unfolding moment with clarity and courage. Touch, response, override. Touch is one of the most primal and powerful senses we possess. It connects us to others, conveys comfort, and affirms existence. Yet, beneath its warmth lies a subtle, profound paradox. Touch can override critical thought. Skin-to-skin contact, while often signaling consent and trust, can also lower mental resistance to manipulation. Physical consent does not automatically mean mental consent. This is the phenomenon known as touch-response override, a biological and psychological truth that challenges how we understand interaction, control, and vulnerability. At first, touch feels wholly benign, natural, even sacred. When a friend places a hand on your shoulder or a loved one embraces you, an intricate dance unfolds in the brain. The skin is not merely a barrier, but a vast sensory organ wired to emotional centers. When touched, nerve endings relay signals to the somatosensory cortex and limbic system, triggering release of hormones like oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. These chemicals promote bonding, calm anxiety, and generate feelings of safety and pleasure. In that moment, your body signals relaxation, connection, and openness. However, this biological openness comes with vulnerability. The very pathways that soften your defenses physically can also dull your critical thinking. Studies show that gentle touch can reduce activity in brain regions responsible for vigilance and analytical judgment. When you are touched in a reassuring way, your mind's internal guard lowers. This makes sense evolutionarily. Social animals rely on touch for cohesion and survival. Yet, in modern contexts, this softness can be exploited. Consider scenarios where touch is used to influence or manipulate. Sales tactics, persuasion techniques, and even political rallies often include deliberate physical contact to foster trust and compliance. For example, a salesperson placing a hand on your arm might subconsciously increase your willingness to agree, even to unfavorable terms. The physical consent to touch can create a mental susceptibility that overrides reasoned skepticism. The complexity deepens in personal relationships. Intimate touch is a language of consent and connection, yet it can blur boundaries. Physical closeness may induce a sense of agreement or obligation, leading one to comply mentally with requests or suggestions they might otherwise question. The heart and mind may part ways. The body's openness to touch is not synonymous with conscious, informed consent. Psychological studies highlight how this dissociation can be subtle but powerful. Touch can alter perception, reduce anxiety, and temporarily rewire priorities toward trust over caution. In vulnerable states, stress, fatigue, or emotional turmoil, this override effect intensifies. A comforting hand becomes a lever, then shifting mental thresholds and altering decision-making processes. Historical examples underscore the dangers of touch-response override. Cult leaders, for instance, often use physical closeness and ritual touch to create group cohesion and suppress dissent. Soldiers in boot camps endure touch-based drills that reinforce obedience and break individual resistance. These are real-world manifestations of how physical contact can wield influence beyond words. The ethical implications are profound. Consent is widely understood as physical agreement, but true consent must also be mental and informed. The gap between physical and mental consent, illuminated by touch-response override, challenges legal, medical, and social frameworks. It urges us to rethink how we navigate boundaries, recognizing that the presence of touch complicates the simple narrative of consent. Understanding touch response, override empowers awareness. Recognizing that your critical faculties might dim under touch invites caution and mindfulness. It encourages creating safe spaces where both physical and mental consent coexist clearly. It also guides professionals, from healthcare to sales, to respect the psychological potency of touch and wield it responsibly. In personal life, this knowledge calls for vigilance. When touched, pause to check in with your mind. Are you agreeing because you truly want to, or because your body's chemistry is nudging you toward compliance? This moment of awareness can reclaim mental sovereignty, balancing the powerful gifts of touch with clear, conscious choice. Touch response. Override reveals the dual nature of one of our most fundamental senses, a bridge to connection and a gateway to influence. The warmth of skin-to-skin contact carries the potential to nurture or to sway, to comfort or to override. Physical closeness creates openings, not just of heart but of mind, and within those openings lies both vulnerability and strength. As you navigate relationships, social interactions, and moments of intimacy, remember that consent is a dance of body and mind. Touch can invite you in, but your mental autonomy must follow freely. Awareness of this paradox protects your inner landscape, ensuring that connection never becomes coercion. Ultimately, the power of touch is neither good nor bad, it is a force of nature. What matters is how consciously we engage with it, respecting its ability to soothe and its capacity to override. Embracing this understanding allows you to experience touch fully yet wisely, honoring both the body's language and the mind's voice. Scent-based trust hack. Your trust is not as conscious or rational as you might believe. Beneath the surface of your carefully reasoned judgments lies a primal, ancient code written deep into your biology, a code that says, trust those who smell familiar. This trust isn't just a polite social cue. It's a powerful instinct shaped over millions of years, a scent-based trust hack hardwired into your brain, guiding your decisions long before logic steps in. From the moment you are born, your nose becomes a gateway to the world. It senses more than mere odors. It deciphers chemical signatures, pheromones, and subtle cues that communicate identity, safety, and belonging. Your brain uses these scents as shortcuts, quick, automatic assessments that decide friend from foe, safe from dangerous, familiar from alien, often without your conscious awareness. Consider the simple act of recognizing a loved one's scent, a parent's natural smell, the subtle fragrance that clings to their skin, the unique bouquet of their body chemistry. This scent triggers deep neural pathways connected to comfort, security, and attachment. It is why newborns instinctively seek their mother's scent, calming and guiding them in a confusing world. Here, scent is a foundation of trust, a primal link binding us to our closest allies. But the story grows more complicated when we realize that this scent-based trust mechanism is not foolproof. Predators and strangers can carry familiar odors, or at least mimic them closely enough to exploit this system. Biology does not equip us with an infallible security scanner. Rather, it trades precision for speed. It prioritizes instinctual judgments over deliberate logic to maximize survival chances. Imagine an early human tribe. When a stranger approaches, the tribe's survival depends on rapid decisions. Scents act like encrypted messages. Is this person a member of the group bearing the tribe's unique olfactory signature? If yes, trust and cooperation are more likely. If no, suspicion or defense kicks in. But what if a cunning predator or rival can mask or imitate these smells? The system can be hacked. Modern science reveals fascinating examples of this scent trust hack in action. Dogs, for instance, use scent recognition to identify friends and foes, but they can be deceived by masking scents or unfamiliar perfumes. Humans are less overt, but still deeply influenced. Studies show that people subconsciously prefer the scent of genetically similar individuals, which influences attraction, friendship, and cooperation. Even more compelling is how scent can override rational thought. In social experiments, participants exposed to certain body odors rated strangers as more trustworthy or likable, despite no other information. This demonstrates how scent bypasses conscious reasoning and triggers gut-level trust responses. This scent-based trust hack extends beyond humans. Many animals rely on scent for territorial marking, mating signals, and social bonding. It is a fundamental communication channel rooted in the ancient olfactory system, one of the oldest senses, predating vision and hearing in evolutionary terms. Yet, in the modern world, we often forget the power of scent beneath layers of culture, perfume, and artificial environments. We rationalize our judgments, believing trust is built on character or facts alone, ignoring the invisible chemical dance that shapes our instincts. Understanding this biological shortcut reveals uncomfortable truths. Trust can be manipulated by scent cues, intentional or accidental. Advertisers use fragrances to influence mood and buying behavior. People use perfumes and deodorants to craft social impressions. In a world saturated with artificial scents, our primal trust system can be confused or exploited. Reflect on how this plays out in your daily life. Have you ever felt an inexplicable comfort or wariness around someone you just met? That silent judgment may have been your nose at work, processing chemical signals before your mind could analyze words or actions. The trust you feel or withhold might be less about who they are and more about how they smell. The scent-based trust hack is a testament to biology's clever but imperfect design. It's a system optimized for survival, not for perfect accuracy or fairness. It trades nuanced reasoning for instant gut feelings, helping you navigate a complex social world in split seconds. In embracing this knowledge, you gain insight and power. You learn to question your instincts, to recognize when scent might be guiding your trust unconsciously. You become aware that trust is not merely a mental choice, but a biological reaction, influenced by forces invisible yet potent. So, next time you decide whether to trust someone, remember, beneath all your thoughts and judgments, your biology is running a scent-based algorithm. It's a shortcut honed by evolution, connecting you to others in ways you cannot see or fully control. And in that ancient, fragrant code lies a deep and compelling mystery, how your nose, more than your mind, shapes the stories of trust and betrayal in your life. Emotion mask. A one download. You mimic emotion before you feel it. Your facial muscles signal to your brain what you should be feeling. Truth is edited later. This is the phenomenon of the emotion mask, a subtle but powerful loop where your outward expressions don't just reflect your inner state, they actively shape it. Before the true feeling arises, your face already performs a script, a social cue that instructs your brain on how to interpret what's happening inside. In essence, you wear a mask of emotion first, and your genuine emotional truth is often rewritten afterward. Think about the last time you forced a smile. Maybe you were in a difficult meeting, or trying to comfort someone despite feeling exhausted or anxious. That smile wasn't spontaneous. It was a deliberate act of expression. Yet that physical movement, lifting the corners of your mouth, softening your eyes, does more than communicate to others. It sends feedback signals to your brain, altering your own emotional landscape. You begin to feel happier, calmer, more connected. The mask you wear becomes a script that guides your internal state. Scientific research supports this feedback loop. Studies show that activating certain facial muscles can influence mood. People who hold a pen between their teeth to mimic a smile report feeling more positive afterward. Conversely, furrowing your brow or frowning can deepen feelings of sadness or anger. This reveals that emotion is not just a top-down process from mind to face, but a dynamic interplay where body and brain continuously inform each other. The emotion mask extends beyond smiling or frowning. Micro-expressions, subtle muscle movements, and even posture contribute to the signals your brain receives about your emotional state. Social norms and expectations often dictate which masks we put on, shaping not only how others perceive us, but also how we perceive ourselves. This editing of truth through expression has profound implications. It means our emotional reality is partly constructed after the fact, a narrative shaped by the physical performances we enact. We are not passive recipients of feelings. We are active creators, sculpting emotions through our own embodied actions. Consider actors who fake emotions for a role. Through deliberate facial and bodily expressions, they can summon authentic feelings, demonstrating the power of the emotion mask. Similarly, people practicing emotional regulation might consciously adopt calming expressions or postures to manage stress. Yet this phenomenon can also lead to dissonance. When the mask conflicts sharply with underlying feelings, such as forcing happiness when deeply sad, the brain faces a contradictory set of signals. This mismatch can create tension, fatigue, or emotional numbness. It reveals how authentic connection between expression and feeling is vital for well-being. The emotion mask also shapes social dynamics. When you mirror another's facial expressions, you create empathy and rapport. But when masks hide true emotions, misunderstandings and alienation can arise. The dance of masking and revealing emotions is a core part of human interaction. Ultimately, understanding the emotion mask empowers you to harness this feedback loop. By consciously choosing your expressions, you can gently guide your emotional state, nurturing positive feelings even in challenging moments. It's a reminder that the body is not just a vessel for emotions, but an active participant in their creation. So, next time you feel uncertain about your mood, Try adjusting your facial expression or posture. Notice how the mask you wear can influence the truth you feel, because in the interplay between expression and emotion, you hold a powerful key to your inner experience. Gaze direction command. Your eyes feel like your own. They move when you want them to. They fixate where your curiosity draws you. You imagine that your gaze is under your conscious control, a voluntary choice directing your attention and exploration of the world. But what if this sense of control is largely an illusion? What if your gaze, one of the most fundamental ways you engage with reality, is often directed, manipulated, or commandeered by forces beyond your awareness? The concept of the gaze direction command reveals a startling truth. Your eyes are not always yours. They can be steered, planted with stimuli designed to capture and control your attention, bending your perception and even your thoughts without your consent. From the earliest moments of life, your brain has evolved sophisticated mechanisms to automatically guide your eyes. Certain stimuli, movement, bright colors, faces, sudden changes, trigger reflexive shifts in gaze, pulling your eyes like a magnet. This automatic gaze direction is critical for survival, allowing you to detect threats, opportunities, or social cues instantly. But these mechanisms are also vulnerabilities, exploitable by external agents seeking to influence your focus and behavior. Advertising is one of the most pervasive examples of gaze direction command in action. Marketers understand that where you look shapes what you feel, think, and ultimately decide. Through carefully designed visuals, bright logos, strategically placed faces, contrasting colors, they lure your eyes to exactly what they want you to see. Your gaze is hijacked, pulling your attention away from neutral or competing information. This manipulation is so subtle that you remain unaware of how your eyes and mind are steered. Similarly, film and photography exploit gaze direction by composing scenes with leading lines, focal points, and lighting that guide your eyes along intended paths. Directors control what you notice and when, shaping your emotional experience and interpretation without a word spoken. Your gaze is choreographed as part of the storytelling, an invisible hand directing your inner world. But gaze direction command goes far beyond marketing and media. Social interactions wield this power constantly. Human beings are wired to follow the gaze of others. When someone suddenly looks up or points, your eyes instinctively track their line of sight. This reflexive following forms the basis of joint attention, empathy, and communication. However, it also means your gaze can be manipulated by the intentions or agendas of those around you. A simple glance can redirect your attention and influence your decisions. Experiments in psychology demonstrate this vividly. When subjects see a face looking toward a particular object, they automatically shift their gaze there, even if it is irrelevant or misleading. This automatic orienting is so strong that it happens before conscious decision, revealing how your eyes can be commandeered by social cues. On digital platforms, gaze direction command is engineered with extraordinary precision. User interfaces design buttons, notifications, and ads to attract your gaze reflexively, exploiting your brain's automatic responses. Infinite scroll, flashing icons, and personalized recommendations steer your attention endlessly, capturing your gaze to maximize engagement and influence behavior. Here, the command of gaze becomes a tool of control, shaping not only where you look, but how you think and act online. Neurologically, this involuntary gaze direction arises from complex networks involving the superior colliculus, parietal cortex, and frontal eye fields. These regions integrate sensory input and internal goals to produce eye movements, often without conscious input. Your brain balances bottom-up stimulus-driven shifts and top-down voluntary control, but the former can overwhelm the latter. The result? Your gaze can be pulled like a puppet's strings by external stimuli or internal compulsions. This knowledge invites a deeper reflection on autonomy and agency. If your gaze, the gateway to your perception, is often steered without your awareness, how free are you truly? How much of what you attend to, remember, and decide is shaped by unseen commands embedded in your environment and social interactions? Consider the implications in politics and propaganda. Visual framing and staged imagery can direct collective gaze to evoke fear, hope, or anger. Public opinion is swayed not just by words, but by what images people are made to focus on. Gaze direction command becomes a potent instrument of power and persuasion, capable of steering societies. Even interpersonal dynamics wield this subtle influence. A manipulative gaze can dominate a conversation, drawing attention to certain emotions or facts while deflecting from others. Your eyes may follow the controlling gaze of another, unconsciously submitting to their agenda. Yet, recognizing this command is the first step to reclaiming your gaze. Mindfulness practices encourage noticing where your attention goes and questioning whether it is voluntary or coerced. By cultivating awareness of these invisible pulls, you begin to disentangle your true desires from implanted distractions. Training your gaze to resist automatic commands can restore autonomy. Techniques such as focused attention, gaze training, and intentional eye movements strengthen top-down control, enabling you to direct your eyes with purpose rather than reflex. This empowers you to engage with the world authentically, rather than being a passive recipient of environmental commands. The gaze direction command is not inherently sinister. It evolved to help you navigate a complex world efficiently. But in modern contexts, its exploitation challenges your freedom and perception. The battleground of your attention is also the battleground of your autonomy. In this light, your eyes become both the most intimate instruments of experience and the most vulnerable targets of influence. They open windows to your consciousness, but also gateways through which external forces can enter and manipulate. So, next time your gaze drifts involuntarily toward a flashing ad, a striking face, or a sudden movement, pause and reflect. Is this where your attention truly wants to go, or has your gaze been commanded by a planted stimulus? Who really owns the direction of your eyes, your conscious self, or an unseen puppeteer? Understanding the gaze direction command empowers you to reclaim your vision, your attention, and ultimately, your reality. Your eyes are powerful tools for exploring existence, but only if you learn to steer them rather than be steered. In the dance between control and command, awareness is your ally. By illuminating the hidden forces that direct your gaze, you reclaim the freedom to look where you choose and to truly see the world on your own terms. A freeze reaction implant. You feel it the moment terror strikes, a sudden, paralyzing freeze. Your heart pounds, breath halts, muscles lock, and the world narrows into a terrifying silence. It feels like survival, like nature's shield against harm. But what if this freeze reaction isn't the hero you think it is? What if, deep beneath your instincts, this stillness is an ancient betrayal, a trap evolution implanted, turning you into easier prey? The freeze reaction, also known as tonic immobility, is a primal response shared across countless species, from rabbits caught in the headlights to sharks playing dead. At face value, freezing seems adaptive. In some cases, predators lose interest in motionless prey, and staying still might save your life. But the truth is far more complex and far more unsettling. When you freeze, you surrender control. Your body becomes an unconscious hostage to a reflex so old that it predates humanity. It is a relic from a time when fleeing or fighting wasn't always possible, when playing dead could be the only option. But in modern contexts, this reflex can betray you, turning you into a passive target, paralyzed not by fear alone, but by a biological script written eons ago. Scientific research shows that freezing is governed by the brain's autonomic nervous system, specifically a shutdown mode triggered by overwhelming stress. Instead of mobilizing energy to run or fight, your system flips a switch, suspending movement and sometimes consciousness. This shutdown serves to reduce detection, dampen pain, or even confuse predators. Yet, it also removes your agency, your ability to act. Consider the paradox. Freezing is survival encoded as surrender. It is evolution's cruel compromise. When neither fight nor flight is viable, your body chooses stillness, effectively making you easier prey. This immobilization is not an act of strength, but a biological betrayal hidden in the guise of protection. In humans, this reflex manifests in moments of extreme trauma, accidents, assaults, or sudden shocks. Victims often describe feeling frozen, unable to scream or move, trapped inside their own bodies. Neuroscience links this to the periaqueductal gray area of the brain, which orchestrates defensive behaviors. The freeze response can also complicate psychological recovery, contributing to feelings of helplessness and dissociation. Yet this implant of stillness isn't a defect, it's a survival strategy, born from a harsh evolutionary landscape. For our ancestors, a fleeting paralysis might have been the difference between life and death, confusing predators long enough to escape or survive an attack. But evolution doesn't design perfect solutions. It crafts compromises. The freeze reaction implant is one such compromise, an ancient betrayal by biology that saves some lives at the cost of surrendering immediate control. Understanding this reflex rewires how you see fear and trauma. Freezing is not weakness or failure, it is a deeply wired response beyond conscious choice. Recognizing it can foster compassion toward yourself and others who experience it. Moreover, awareness can empower recovery. Therapies targeting trauma now focus on restoring agency, helping individuals reclaim movement, voice, and control that the freeze reflex once seized. Breaking free from stillness becomes a journey back from evolution's ancient betrayal. So, next time you feel that freeze, the sudden lock of body and mind, remember what it truly is. Not your enemy, but an ancient code written into your very being, a biological compromise between survival and surrender. In that frozen moment lies both vulnerability and resilience, the shadow of evolution's ruthless past and the promise of reclaiming your power beyond instinct's grasp. Voice pattern override. Voice is more than mere sound. It is a primal instrument woven into the fabric of human connection and influence. Among the countless ways voices shape our experience, one phenomenon stands out. Voice pattern override. A certain tone, deep, rhythmic, calming, can bypass reason entirely, slipping past critical thought to access the raw core of emotional compliance. Charisma, at its essence, often boils down to mastery of this resonance control. From birth, humans are wired to respond to vocal patterns. The lullabies that soothe infants, the firm yet gentle tone of caregivers, the commanding voice of leaders. All these evoke physiological and psychological responses beyond conscious reasoning. This wiring is ancient, predating language, residing in brain circuits tied to emotion, trust, and social hierarchy. The deep rhythmic cadence of certain voices mirrors natural biological rhythms. The heartbeat, breathing patterns, even the oscillations of brain waves. When a voice synchronizes with these rhythms, it resonates within us, creating a hypnotic effect. The mind's analytical filters relax, skepticism dims, emotional receptivity rises. This is the core mechanism of voice pattern override. Neuroscience shows that specific voice frequencies activate limbic areas, the emotional centers of the brain, more directly than other stimuli. The vagus nerve, integral to parasympathetic regulation, responds to vocal tones, modulating heart rate, stress, and calm. Thus, a voice tuned just right can physiologically soften defenses, making listeners more open and compliant. Charisma, the magnetic power some people wield, is often misunderstood as mere charm or confidence, but deeper still, it is resonance control. The ability to use one's voice as an instrument of influence, guiding others not just through words, but through tonal patterns that evoke trust, safety, and belonging. Think of great orators, leaders, or spiritual teachers. Their voices carry a rhythm that draws audiences into a shared emotional space. They don't just speak, they pulse, they breathe, they resonate. This resonance bypasses the chatter of the conscious mind and connects directly to the listener's emotional core. Voice pattern override can be subtle or overt. In everyday life, a calming tone can de-escalate conflict, reduce anxiety, and foster cooperation. In contrast, rhythmic chanting and rituals can induce trance states, dissolving ego boundaries, and opening participants to group consensus or suggestion. However, this power carries risks. When wielded unethically, voice patterns can manipulate, seduce, or coerce. Cult leaders, con artists, and propagandists often exploit this resonance, using vocal mastery to override skepticism and enforce compliance. Their deep rhythmic tones create emotional bonds that may override critical judgment. Understanding this phenomenon empowers both speaker and listener. Speakers can cultivate awareness of their vocal resonance to communicate more effectively and ethically. Listeners gain tools to recognize when a voice is attempting to bypass reason, reclaiming mental autonomy. Training the voice for resonance involves breath control, pitch modulation, pacing, and intentional rhythm. Practices such as singing, chanting, and public speaking hone these skills. The body and mind align, creating a voice that moves beyond words into profound emotional connection. On the listener's side, mindfulness of emotional responses to vocal tone is crucial. Noticing how a voice affects heart rate, tension, or mood reveals when resonance is influencing beyond content. This awareness allows space to engage reason alongside emotion. Voice pattern override reveals a deeper truth about human communication. That influence is as much about how something is said as what is said. Tone colors meaning, shapes perception, and opens or closes doors of compliance. In a world saturated with voices, from media to personal interaction, recognizing the power of vocal resonance is vital. It reminds us that communication is not solely a cognitive exchange, but a dance of frequencies, rhythms, and emotions. Ultimately, mastering or resisting voice pattern override is a pathway to deeper connection and integrity. The voice is not just a tool, but a bridge, capable of healing, inspiring, or manipulating depending on the conscious choices behind its use. Next time you listen or speak, pay attention to the tone, the rhythm beneath the words. Within those vibrations lies the subtle current of influence, the pulse of charisma, and the doorway to emotional compliance. Belief reinforcement pulse. Your belief is not just a thought, it's a biochemical event, a pulse firing deep within your brain's reward circuits. When you hold a belief, especially one you cling to strongly, your brain releases chemicals like dopamine that flood you with pleasure and satisfaction. This is the belief reinforcement pulse, a powerful mechanism where believing something feels good, regardless of its truth. From an evolutionary perspective, this pulse helped humans form cohesive groups and shared realities. Beliefs bind us, create meaning, and motivate action. When you believe, your brain rewards you, encouraging you to hold on tighter. The stronger the belief, the more pleasure it triggers, and the harder it becomes to let go. This biochemical reward system means truth becomes biologically irrelevant. The brain prioritizes belief's emotional payoff over factual accuracy. You feel good believing what fits your worldview, even if evidence contradicts it. This explains why people can maintain false beliefs, conspiracy theories, or deeply held biases with such tenacity. Consider cognitive dissonance, the discomfort you feel when confronted with information challenging your beliefs. Your brain resists this discomfort by doubling down, reinforcing the pleasurable pulse of existing beliefs and rejecting contrary evidence. This cycle traps you in a loop of belief and reward. Neurologically, this involves the brain's limbic system and prefrontal cortex. The limbic system assigns emotional value, while the prefrontal cortex manages reasoning. When belief and pleasure align, emotional centers overpower logical ones, skewing judgment. Real-world examples abound. Political beliefs, religious faith, or personal convictions often endure despite contradictory facts, fueled by this internal reward. Social media algorithms amplify this by feeding belief-affirming content, deepening the reinforcement pulse. Understanding this biological bias offers freedom. Awareness that your brain rewards belief rather than truth lets you question your certainties. You can learn to observe this pulse without surrendering to it, cultivating openness and humility. Your mind craves the pleasure of belief, but true wisdom requires stepping beyond that craving. It invites you to seek truth even when it feels uncomfortable, breaking free from the cycle of pleasure-driven conviction. In this dance between belief and biology, you hold the power to choose, to follow the pulse or to question it. Recognizing the belief reinforcement pulse is the first step toward conscious clarity, where truth regains its rightful place beyond mere pleasure. Mirror identity, sync, you mirror people to survive, but over time, you forget where they end and you begin. You become a collage. From our earliest moments, humans are wired to connect. One of the deepest ways we do this is through mirroring, the unconscious imitation of gestures, expressions, speech patterns, and emotions of those around us. Mirroring is not mere mimicry. It's a vital survival mechanism, a bridge that fosters empathy, social bonding, and belonging. When you mirror someone, you synchronize with their state, signaling, "I am like you," and inviting trust and connection. Imagine a child growing up in a household where love is expressed through gentle tones and warm smiles. The child mirrors these behaviors, adopting the rhythm and language of affection. This mirroring helps the child feel safe and understood. Conversely, If the environment is tense or hostile, the child mirrors fear or aggression, learning survival through adaptation. But what happens when mirroring is constant, pervasive, and prolonged? When your identity becomes a patchwork quilt woven from the traits, moods, and expressions of many others, the boundaries between self and other blur. You start to forget which parts are genuinely yours and which are reflections absorbed to fit in. This is the essence of the mirror identity sink, a phenomenon where the self dissolves into a collage of mirrored identities. You become a living mosaic of others' influences, shaped by countless interactions, sometimes so seamlessly that the original contours of your authentic self fade into the background. Psychologically, this can manifest in various ways. People pleasers, for example, habitually mirror to gain approval and avoid conflict, often losing track of their own desires and feelings. Those in codependent relationships may unconsciously absorb their partner's emotions and traits, sacrificing their individuality. Even in everyday social contexts, repeated mirroring can subtly shift your personality, preferences, and reactions. Neurologically, mirroring is facilitated by mirror neurons, brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else doing the same. These neurons underpin empathy and learning by imitation, but also blur the line between self and other. Prolonged activation can lead to an intertwined sense of identity. This state of blended identity has both strengths and challenges. On one hand, it enables profound empathy and adaptability. You can move through social environments with ease, attuned to others' needs and moods. On the other hand, losing clear boundaries can lead to confusion, burnout, and a crisis of self. Without knowing where you end and others begin, feelings of emptiness or disconnection can arise. Reclaiming your sense of self amidst this sink requires conscious effort. Practices such as self-reflection, setting boundaries, and engaging in solitary activities help differentiate your authentic identity from mirrored fragments. Mindfulness cultivates awareness of when you are mirroring and when you are acting from your own center. The mirror identity sink also offers a powerful metaphor for human connectedness. It reminds us that identity is not fixed or isolated, but relational and fluid. We are all, to some extent, collages, shaped by the people we meet, the cultures we inhabit, and the stories we share. In embracing this, you honor both your individuality and your embeddedness in the social fabric. You learn to navigate the delicate balance between connection and autonomy, empathy, and selfhood. So, next time you find yourself adapting effortlessly to others, pause and ask, where do they end? And I begin? In this question lies the journey from becoming a mere reflection to discovering the unique mosaic that is you, complex, multifaceted, and beautifully whole. Target acquisition reflex. Your eyes move seemingly of their own accord, flicking across faces and bodies in a crowd, catching glimpses and snippets without your conscious intention. You think you choose where to look, but beneath that surface lies a powerful and automatic mechanism, your brain's target acquisition reflex. This hidden process scans the environment ceaselessly, hunting for dominance cues, threat signals, and mating potential, silently and relentlessly calculating your social landscape, all without your conscious consent. You are not the master of your gaze. Your brain is conducting an invisible assessment, steering your attention in ways that serve survival and reproduction. From the moment you enter a room filled with strangers, your brain engages in rapid-fire social analysis. It parses facial expressions, body postures, eye contact, vocal tones, all the subtle signals that convey status, aggression, submission, or interest. This information feeds an internal calculation. Who is dominant? Who is a threat? Who could be a potential mate? Your attention zeroes in on these cues automatically, shaping your behavior and emotional state before you even realize it. This target acquisition reflex evolved over millions of years in complex social species, including humans. In ancestral environments, identifying dominance hierarchies was crucial for survival. Knowing who to ally with, who to avoid, and who posed danger could mean the difference between life and death. Similarly, recognizing potential mates was essential for passing on genes. These assessments had to be rapid, subconscious, and accurate. Modern neuroscience reveals how the brain performs these feats. Regions like the amygdala, superior temporal sulcus, and orbitofrontal cortex are wired to detect social cues instantly and non-consciously. Even a brief glance at a face triggers circuits evaluating trustworthiness, dominance, and emotion. Your eyes are drawn reflexively toward these stimuli, the brain prioritizing social information over less urgent details. For example, if someone in the crowd displays an assertive posture or a piercing gaze, your attention is captured involuntarily. Your brain flags this individual as a high-status figure, potentially a threat or ally. Conversely, submissive or anxious expressions might draw your gaze differently, signaling safety or avoidance. You do not decide this process. It happens beneath awareness. Similarly, reproductive cues engage this reflex powerfully. Subtle indicators of health, fertility, or attraction activate reward circuits and capture your gaze, even if you consciously ignore or suppress these feelings. This automatic scanning ensures you remain attuned to social opportunities essential for genetic continuation. The target acquisition reflex also operates dynamically, adjusting based on context, mood, and past experience. If you feel threatened, your gaze sharpens on potential aggressors. If you are seeking connection, your eyes linger longer on attractive or friendly faces. This flexible system optimizes your social navigation without burdening conscious thought. However, this reflex can also trap you in unconscious biases and social conditioning. Because your brain prioritizes certain dominance or attractiveness signals shaped by culture or personal history, your gaze may reinforce stereotypes, prejudices, or social hierarchies without your intention. Awareness of this automatic process is key to recognizing and countering such biases. Psychological studies confirm the reflex's power. Participants shown crowds or social scenes often fixate longer on dominant or attractive individuals, even when instructed to look elsewhere. Eye-tracking technology reveals these unconscious patterns, highlighting how deeply embedded the target acquisition reflex is. This reflex influences your emotions and decisions. Spotting a dominant figure might trigger anxiety or submission. Noticing an attractive person may evoke desire or competition. These responses prepare your body and mind for appropriate social action, guided by an algorithm you did not program. Understanding the target acquisition reflex reveals the complexity of human social cognition. You are not a passive observer, but an active and evolved participant in an intricate web of social signals and unconscious calculations. Your gaze is a compass, orienting you in the ever-shifting landscape of status and connection. Yet this knowledge also raises profound questions about free will and agency. If your attention and perception are constantly steered by reflexive social calculations, how much control do you truly have over what you see and how you feel? How can you assert conscious choice amid these automatic processes? The answer lies in awareness. By recognizing the reflex, you gain the power to observe its influence and gradually guide your attention with intention. Mindfulness, critical reflection, and social learning empower you to transcend automatic biases and choose how to engage with others. In practical terms, this means cultivating habits that question your first impressions, challenge stereotypes, and open space for genuine connection beyond surface cues. It means slowing down, noticing where your gaze drifts, and asking why. Your eyes are not just windows to the world. They are instruments tuned to a deep social radar, scanning, selecting, and evaluating without your permission. The target acquisition reflex is a silent conductor of your social experience, orchestrating attention and emotion in the background. Embracing this insight transforms how you see yourself and others. You begin to appreciate the subtle dance of dominance, threat, and attraction playing out in every glance. You realize that beneath conscious intention lies an ancient, powerful engine shaping your social reality. So, the next time you find your gaze locking on a face in a crowd, pause and wonder, is this my choice or the target acquisition reflex at work? Who really commands your attention, the conscious eye or the primal brain scanning for survival signals? In this tension between reflex and will, awareness becomes your ally, offering freedom from unseen commands. By shining light on this hidden process, you reclaim your gaze, your choices, and your place within the social world. Your eyes scan, your brain calculates, and your survival depends on this silent, relentless target acquisition reflex, whether you know it or not. Skin memory decay. Your skin is your boundary with the world. the first sense organ to register touch, pressure, heat, and pain. It feels the gentle brush of a lover's hand, the sting of cold wind, the burn of fire. Yet, beneath this delicate layer lies a paradox. Your skin forgets touch quickly. A fleeting caress fades from its memory in seconds, and the body moves on. But your brain, your mind, does not forget. Trauma that is skin deep is etched forever into the depths of your nervous system, stored where sensation once lived but was lost. Consider the ephemeral nature of physical sensation. A touch lasts only moments. Your skin cells renew constantly, and sensory receptors adapt or desensitize. The immediate experience of touch is transient, but the emotional and psychological imprint that touch leaves, especially traumatic touch, does not fade so easily. When trauma is inflicted on your body, especially through touch, your nervous system reacts deeply. The brain encodes these painful or fearful sensations, creating lasting neural patterns. These patterns alter how your body and mind respond to future touch, sometimes triggering flashbacks, anxiety, or numbness. Though your skin may no longer recall the exact pressure or texture, the memory lingers, hidden in the circuits of your brain. This phenomenon is known as somatic memory, the body's way of holding on to trauma. It explains why survivors of abuse or injury often feel sensations or emotional reactions without conscious triggers. Their skin might become hypersensitive or, paradoxically, numb. The brain preserves the memory even as the body tries to protect itself by forgetting. Neuroscientific research reveals that trauma affects the limbic system, particularly the amygdala and hippocampus, which govern emotion and memory. The body's sensory pathways transmit signals that are stored not only as factual memories, but as charged emotional imprints. These imprints can resurface unpredictably as physical reactions or emotional responses linked to touch. Therapies like somatic experiencing and trauma-informed bodywork aim to reconnect skin and brain to heal these hidden wounds by gently restoring sensation and rewriting traumatic memory. They work with the idea that healing trauma requires more than cognitive processing. It demands engaging the body's forgotten memory. Understanding skin memory decay reshapes how we view trauma. It is not just a psychological event, but a physical one, inscribed in the body where sensation was lost. Your skin may forget the touch, but your brain keeps the record, sometimes silently, sometimes painfully. This knowledge invites compassion and patience for those carrying invisible scars. It reveals the resilience and complexity of the human nervous system, capable of both storing deep pain and, through awareness and care, finding paths to recovery. So, when you think about touch, its fleeting nature and its power, remember this paradox. The skin forgets quickly, but the brain does not. Trauma is skin deep, yet forever etched in the memory of your nervous system, waiting for healing beyond sensation. Story chemical reward. Stories have shaped human existence since the dawn of time. Around flickering fires, early humans shared tales, not just for entertainment, but to bind communities, teach lessons, and create shared realities. Today, we still hunger for narratives, not merely as passive consumers, but as biological creatures wired to respond deeply to coherent stories. This is the essence of what I call story chemical reward. Narratives release dopamine in the brain, no matter if they are true or false. Your biology evolved to reward coherence, not accuracy. At its core, dopamine is the brain's currency of motivation and pleasure. It reinforces behaviors that promote survival and social bonding. When you hear a story that fits together neatly, a beginning, middle, and end that align with cause and effect, you experience a dopamine surge. This chemical reward signals that your brain has successfully made sense of complex information, enhancing memory and attention. Remarkably, this reward system does not prioritize factual truth. It rewards coherence, patterns, and predictability. Even a fabricated or distorted story, if structured convincingly, can trigger dopamine release. This means that your brain might like a narrative simply because it is compellingly coherent, not because it is accurate. This biological tendency explains why myths, rumors, conspiracy theories, and fictional tales captivate us. They offer narrative coherence, a tidy explanation or emotional arc that satisfies our brain's craving for order and meaning, regardless of truth. The emotional highs and resolution within a story are dopamine-fueled experiences that feel rewarding. Consider how eyewitness testimonies, even when flawed, gain trust because they provide coherent accounts, or how political propaganda thrives by constructing simple, emotionally charged narratives that tap into tribal identity and fear. The brain's reward for coherence can override critical thinking and fact-checking. This story chemical reward also underlies why personal memories are often reshaped into narratives that fit our self-image and life philosophy. We unconsciously edit and reconstruct our past to create a coherent story that supports our identity, releasing dopamine with each successful integration. In entertainment, this reward system is harnessed masterfully. Films, books, and games craft narratives that guide viewers through emotional journeys, triggering dopamine peaks at plot twists, climaxes, and resolutions. This is not just storytelling, but chemical engineering of the brain's pleasure centers. The evolutionary roots of this system lie in survival. Early humans who could detect patterns and create coherent mental maps had a survival advantage. Coherent narratives helped navigate social structures, predict behavior, and transmit knowledge. Accuracy was secondary to practical usefulness of the story. But in the modern world, this reward system can be exploited. The flood of information and misinformation leverages our dopamine-driven craving for coherence, sometimes leading us away from reality. It fuels echo chambers, confirmation bias, and ideological rigidity. Understanding story chemical reward equips you to be a more discerning consumer and creator of narratives. Recognize the dopamine hit as a signal, not a proof of truth. Cultivate awareness of how coherence can feel so convincing it clouds judgment. This insight also invites compassion for why people hold on to beliefs that may be factually incorrect but emotionally coherent. The brain's reward for story alignment is powerful and deeply human. In crafting your own stories, whether personal or public, this knowledge is a double-edged sword. It offers tools to connect and inspire, but also a responsibility to seek balance between coherence and integrity. Ultimately, story chemical reward reveals that our brains are wired not just to seek facts, but meaning. We are storytelling beings biologically designed to find pleasure in narratives that bring order to chaos. So, next time a story grips you, whether news, fiction, or memory, listen to the dopamine whisper. Ask yourself, is this story true or just coherent? And what does that mean for how you understand the world and yourself? Touchless pain loop. Your emotional wounds are more than just feelings. They are deeply intertwined with your body's physical pain systems. When you experience emotional trauma or distress, your brain activates regions that are also responsible for processing physical pain. This creates what scientists call the touchless pain loop. You hurt physically from memory, even when no physical injury is present, because biology does not distinguish between real and remembered pain. It does not know the pain isn't real. Imagine a heartbreak so raw that it feels like a stab in your chest, or anxiety so intense that your muscles ache and your head throbs. These sensations aren't just metaphors, they are biological realities. Neuroscience reveals that the anterior cingulate cortex and insula, key brain regions for processing physical pain, also light up during emotional suffering. The brain's alarm systems cannot separate emotional anguish from physical harm, merging them into a single experience of pain. This fusion creates a feedback loop where emotional memories trigger physical pain responses, which then reinforce emotional distress. The memory of trauma reactivates pain circuits, and the physical discomfort strengthens the emotional wound, trapping you in a cycle of touchless suffering. Consider patients with chronic pain syndromes who have no detectable physical injury, yet suffer relentless pain. Many of these cases stem from unresolved emotional trauma that continually ignites their pain pathways. The brain's pain matrix becomes hypersensitive, responding to cues from memory and emotion rather than actual tissue damage. This loop can manifest in everyday life too. Stress, rejection, or loss can cause headaches, muscle tension, or stomach aches. Your body expresses the unprocessed emotional pain physically. The pain feels real because, for your nervous system, it is. Psychologists call this somatization, the process where psychological distress converts into physical symptoms. It is a survival mechanism gone awry, a body trying to communicate and process emotional injury through familiar channels of pain. Healing from this touchless pain loop requires addressing both mind and body. Trauma therapies like EMDR and somatic experiencing focus on reconnecting emotional memories with bodily sensations, allowing the brain to reprocess pain safely. Mindfulness and meditation help break the feedback cycle by cultivating awareness without judgment, soothing the nervous system. Understanding this loop also invites compassion toward yourself and others. When someone says, "My pain is invisible," it is often true. Emotional wounds are real wounds, capable of inflicting deep physical suffering without a single touch. Biology's inability to distinguish real from remembered pain reveals the profound interconnectedness of body and mind. Pain is not merely a physical event, but a complex, holistic experience shaped by memory, emotion, and perception. You are not imagining your pain. It is a genuine signal, a language of the nervous system calling for healing and integration. Recognizing the touchless pain loop empowers you to seek holistic care, acknowledging that emotional and physical pain are two faces of the same suffering. In this recognition lies hope. The loop can be broken. With awareness, therapy, and time, the brain can learn to differentiate past pain from present safety, calming the circuits that once screamed. Your pain, though touchless, is real, and your healing journey honors that truth. Flavor-triggered submission. Flavor isn't just taste, it's a behavioral cue. Certain artificial tastes are tuned to lower defense and increase pleasure-driven obedience. When you think of flavor, you probably imagine the simple sensory experience of something sweet, salty, bitter, sour, or umami dancing on your tongue. But flavor is far more than mere taste. It is a powerful signal, a behavioral trigger that reaches deep into your brain's reward and survival systems. Certain artificially engineered flavors are designed not just to please your palate, but to influence your behavior, subtly nudging you toward lowered defenses and heightened pleasure-driven compliance. Consider the foods and drinks you consume daily. Many are infused with highly processed flavor compounds, crafted to activate reward pathways intensely and efficiently. These flavors hijack your brain's natural chemistry, flooding it with dopamine and other feel-good neurotransmitters. The result is an experience not merely of taste, but of deep, compelling satisfaction that can override caution and critical thinking. From an evolutionary standpoint, humans evolved to seek out calorie-dense, energy-rich foods, sweet fruits, salty minerals, and fatty meats, because they were vital for survival. Our brains are wired to associate these flavors with nourishment and safety. But the modern food industry has taken advantage of this wiring, creating artificial flavor profiles that exploit these innate preferences to maximize pleasure and, consequentially, consumption. When you eat a food with such engineered flavor, your brain receives a potent message. This is good for you. Relax, enjoy, consume more. This message lowers your natural defenses, the critical filters that evaluate risks, control impulses, and regulate desires. It encourages obedience to the immediate drive for pleasure, often at the expense of long-term well-being. This phenomenon is not just anecdotal. Scientific studies reveal that highly flavored processed foods can condition behaviors akin to addiction. They trigger cravings, promote overeating, and diminish the capacity to resist tempting stimuli. The flavor becomes a cue, a trigger that initiates behavioral sequences involving eating more, seeking more, and ignoring satiety signals. The implications extend beyond personal health. Flavor-triggered submission impacts social and economic behaviors. When consumers are drawn irresistibly to certain products due to their engineered flavor, they become more predictable, easier to influence through marketing and branding. The flavor acts as a silent recruiter in the dance of consumerism, coaxing compliance through pleasure. Moreover, this effect is enhanced by multisensory integration. Flavor is not just about taste, but involves smell, texture, temperature, and even visual cues. Together, these sensory signals amplify the behavioral influence, creating immersive experiences that captivate and command attention. Understanding this dynamic empowers you to regain agency. Awareness that flavor can manipulate your brain's defenses invites mindful consumption. You begin to question not just what tastes good, but why you crave certain tastes and how they influence your choices. Practically, this might mean seeking whole, minimally processed foods where flavors are natural and aligned with true nourishment rather than engineered pleasure traps. It could involve slowing down eating to reconnect with the genuine bodily signals of hunger and fullness, resisting automatic compliance to flavor-driven urges, In broader terms, recognizing flavor-triggered submission highlights the intricate interplay between biology, technology, and culture. It reveals how deeply our behaviors can be shaped by subtle sensory cues crafted by human design. This knowledge calls for critical reflection on food systems, marketing ethics, and personal responsibility. Ultimately, flavor is a language, a communication from your environment to your brain, coded in molecules and sensations, capable of commanding your mind and body. When artificially tuned for maximal pleasure, it becomes a powerful behavioral cue, lowering defenses and increasing obedience to pleasure's call. So, next time a food or drink overwhelms your senses with intense flavor, pause to ask, is this taste inviting genuine nourishment, or is it a carefully crafted signal designed to bypass my defenses and steer my behavior? In that question lies the path to freedom from flavor-triggered submission, a journey toward conscious choice in a world awash with seductive tastes. Memory delay. Editing. Every moment you think you are experiencing reality in real time, your brain is actually working with a slight delay, about 300 milliseconds, between what happens out there and what you perceive inside. This delay, though imperceptible to your conscious mind, creates a crucial gap where your biology intervenes with powerful editing, filling in missing information not with raw fact, but with prediction. This phenomenon, known as memory delay editing, reveals that your experience of the present is not a direct reflection of reality, but a live, dynamic construction shaped by anticipation and inference. Imagine you are watching a friend speak. The words they utter take time to travel through your ears, be processed by your nervous system, and be interpreted by your brain. Even though this lag is just a fraction of a second, your brain cannot afford to wait passively for delayed sensory input. It needs to keep you oriented and responsive in a rapidly changing environment. To bridge this temporal gap, your brain predicts what will come next, using past experience and contextual cues to generate a seamless perception. This predictive processing means that what you see, hear, and feel is already edited, shaped, and sometimes altered before it reaches your awareness. Your brain essentially makes an educated guess about reality, and this guess becomes your conscious experience. When sensory input finally arrives, it is compared against the prediction. If it matches, perception continues smoothly. If there's a mismatch, the brain updates its model and corrects the prediction. This editing happens so fluidly and rapidly that you are unaware of it. You live inside a constructed now, a narrative your brain stitches together from fragments of delayed data and anticipatory fills. This explains why perception can sometimes be fooled or distorted. For example, optical illusions exploit the brain's reliance on prediction, revealing how it fills gaps based on expectations rather than facts. Neuroscience experiments confirm this delay. Researchers measure neural activity and reaction times to show that conscious awareness trails behind real events. Yet, your brain's predictive editing allows you to interact effectively with the world, as if in real time, compensating for the inherent delay. One compelling example is the experience of catching a ball. Your brain predicts the ball's trajectory before the sensory input fully arrives, allowing you to move your hand in time. Without this predictive editing, your reactions would be too slow, and you'd miss the catch every time. This phenomenon also underlies the feeling of presence in virtual reality or video games. The brain predicts sensory consequences of your actions, creating immersion. When predictions align with sensory feedback, you feel in the moment. When they don't, disorientation or motion sickness can occur. Memory delay editing also relates to how you experience time and causality. Your brain constantly updates its narrative to maintain a coherent sense of sequence, sometimes reordering events to fit expected patterns. This can create illusions of precognition or retroactive causality, where effects seem to precede causes, revealing the brain's flexible handling of temporal information. Emotion and attention modulate this editing. Strong feelings can bias predictions, making you expect certain outcomes and perceive events accordingly. Focused attention sharpens prediction accuracy, while distraction or fatigue weakens it, sometimes causing errors in perception or judgment. The biological basis for this editing involves hierarchical networks in the brain, from sensory cortices to higher-order association areas. These networks communicate bidirectionally. Top-down signals carry predictions, while bottom-up signals relay actual sensory input. The interplay shapes your ongoing experience, Understanding memory delay editing challenges the notion of immediate reality. It reveals that your conscious experience is a continuous act of creation, a live story woven from delayed data and forward-looking guesses. Reality is not simply received, it is actively constructed. This insight invites humility and curiosity. It shows that what you take for granted as direct perception is a fragile, dynamic process subject to error, bias, and invention. It encourages exploration of how your mind fills in gaps and how those gaps might shape your beliefs and actions. In practical terms, this means questioning the certainty of your perceptions and memories. Being aware of predictive editing can enhance critical thinking, reduce misjudgments, and foster openness to alternative perspectives. It also illuminates experiences like déjà vu, hallucinations, or altered states, where predictive processing may go awry, producing vivid but false perceptions. These phenomena underscore the brain's reliance on editing to create coherent experience. Ultimately, memory delay editing is a testament to your brain's extraordinary capacity to navigate a complex temporal world. By anticipating and filling in the gaps of delayed reality, it crafts the seamless, continuous experience you call consciousness. So, next time you trust your senses, remember that what you perceive is not raw fact, but a beautifully edited prediction, crafted live by your biology to keep you oriented, responsive, and alive in a world where even the present arrives a heartbeat too late. Fear-taste conversion. You feel it deep inside, a surge of terror so intense it floods your entire body. Your heart races, muscles tense, breath quickens, and amidst this storm, something subtle but profound occurs. The chemistry of your saliva changes. This is not a random byproduct of fear, but a powerful biological signal. Extreme fear causes a chemical transformation in your saliva, an ancient biological message your body sends outward, designed so others might taste your panic and share in your alarm. It is fear's silent contagion, a biochemical call to attention and survival. This phenomenon is rooted in our evolutionary past, where communication extended beyond words, gestures, or sounds. Before language, before complex social cues, our bodies spoke through chemistry. Saliva, a fluid essential for digestion and oral health, became a messenger carrying emotional states. When fear grips you, your body releases stress hormones and alters the molecular composition of your saliva. Change is detectable not just by you, but by those around you. Consider the molecules involved. Cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress-related compounds spill into your saliva, modifying its taste and scent. Animals have long exploited these cues. Predators and prey alike can sense fear and chemical signals, adjusting their behavior accordingly. A deer frozen in terror can unwittingly broadcast its panic through saliva, alerting others to danger or signaling vulnerability. In humans, the effect is more subtle, but no less real. Though we may not consciously taste or smell another's fear, our brains are finely tuned to pick up chemical and sensory hints. Studies have shown that sweat and saliva from frightened individuals can trigger physiological responses, like increased heart rate or heightened alertness, in observers. This chemical empathy serves as an early warning system, spreading awareness faster than sight or sound alone. This fear-taste conversion is a form of biological contagion. Fear not as mere emotion, but as a chemical signal passed from body to body. It explains why panic can ripple through crowds, why terror can spread instantaneously in emergency situations. It is fear made tangible, passed through the invisible medium of altered saliva and scent. Moreover, this biochemical communication is tied deeply to social bonding and survival. Sharing fear chemically strengthens group cohesion, synchronizes responses to threats, and enhances collective vigilance. It is an ancient language encoded in biology, beyond words but no less powerful. But this conversion also carries a cost. Chronic exposure to stress chemicals can heighten anxiety, amplify panic, and perpetuate cycles of fear in communities. Understanding the biochemical roots of fear transmission reveals the interplay between biology and psychology, between individual experience and social dynamics. Imagine a moment of intense fear, a whispered warning, a terrified gasp. Unseen to the eye, chemical messengers flood the saliva, subtly changing its taste and scent. These changes ripple outward, stirring alertness, unease, and readiness in others. Fear becomes a shared experience, a survival mechanism written into our very biology. The fear-taste conversion challenges how we think about emotions, not as isolated feelings, but as biological signals with tangible effects on others. It reveals the profound interconnectedness of human experience, where even what we taste carries the echo of primal survival. So, the next time fear seizes you, know that your body is not just protecting you, it is reaching out, passing a message to those around you through altered saliva, a silent, chemical shout across the web of life. It is evolution's ancient call, urging connection, vigilance, and survival through the taste of pain, breath sync control. Breathing is something so natural and automatic that we rarely give it much thought. Yet, beneath this unconscious rhythm lies a powerful mechanism of connection, influence, and control, a phenomenon I call breath sync control. Your breathing subtly mirrors those around you. This automatic synchronization is more than coincidence. It is a profound biological dance rooted in empathy and survival. But like any powerful system, this auto-sync can be hijacked to instill calm or spread hysteria. From the moment we are born, breath ties us to the people around us. Infants instinctively match their breathing patterns with caregivers, forging a deep physiological bond. This mirroring is a silent conversation, an unspoken language of trust and safety. When someone breathes slowly and steadily, their presence invites calm. When breath becomes rapid and shallow, it signals alarm and tension. Our bodies respond accordingly, adjusting our own breath to match the emotional tone in our environment. Scientific studies show that when people interact, whether friends, strangers, or performers in audiences, their breathing rates tend to synchronize. This synchronization extends beyond simple mimicry. It aligns heart rates, brain waves, and even hormonal rhythms. This biological mirroring fosters social cohesion, empathy, and emotional resonance. It's a bridge connecting minds through the most basic and vital act of life, breath. But this powerful connection has a dark side. Breath sync control can be weaponized. In moments of crisis or mass gatherings, the rapid, shallow breaths of panic can ripple through crowds like wildfire, triggering collective hysteria. One person's heightened anxiety, expressed through breath, can spread uncontrollably, overwhelming rational thought. The body's primal response to perceived threat, shared via breath, becomes a contagion of fear. Conversely, breath can be harnessed to restore calm. Techniques like guided breathing, pranayama, and mindfulness meditation leverage this auto-sync to influence not only individual physiology, but group dynamics. A leader who breathes slowly and deeply can anchor the emotions of an entire room, reducing tension and fostering presence. Therapists use breath synchronization to connect with clients, creating safe spaces for healing. The mechanics of breath sync involve the autonomic nervous system, particularly the parasympathetic branch that regulates rest and digestion. Slow, deep breathing activates this system, releasing neurotransmitters like acetylcholine that reduce heart rate and stress hormones. When one person models this breath pattern, it cues others' bodies to follow suit, cascading calm through social networks. In contrast, rapid erratic breathing activates the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, priming the body for danger. When this pattern spreads, it escalates collective anxiety. Historical accounts of mass panic often describe crowds collectively holding their breath or gasping in unison, physiological echoes of mounting fear. Breath sync control also plays a role in intimate relationships. Couples who unconsciously synchronize their breathing experience deeper emotional attunement and bonding. This sync enhances empathy and connection, grounding partners in shared experience. Disruptions in this rhythm can signal emotional distance or conflict. Understanding this mechanism equips us with tools for self-regulation and influence. By becoming aware of our own breath and its impact on those around us, we can choose to break cycles of tension or amplify states of calm. It invites conscious presence, breathing not just for ourselves, but as part of a living, breathing network. In leadership, performance, therapy, and daily life, mastering breath sync control becomes a way to navigate emotional landscapes. It highlights that our physiology is never isolated. It is intertwined with the rhythms of others, creating a collective organism of shared breath and feeling. The power of breath to synchronize, to calm or inflame, reveals the profound truth that we are not solitary beings. Our bodies continuously communicate in waves of breath, creating invisible threads of connection that shape social reality. Next time you feel overwhelmed in a group or anxious in solitude, notice your breath. Listen to its rhythm and the rhythms around you. Recognize the subtle dance of breath sync control at play, a dance that can either soothe your mind or stir a storm. This awareness opens the door to reclaiming agency over a force both intimate and universal. Breathing together, consciously and with intention, we can transform tension into peace, chaos into harmony. Breath is life, connection, and control. Within its waves lies the key to emotional resonance and the power to shape collective experience. Circadian mood lock. Your mood is not always the product of conscious thought or circumstance. Deep within you lies an ancient rhythm, governed not by logic or choice, but by the subtle dance of light and darkness. This is the circadian mood lock, the profound truth that your feelings, even despair, can be prescripted by the sky itself. From the moment dawn breaks, your brain receives signals from the light outside. Specialized cells in your eyes, distinct from those used for vision, detect changes in brightness and color. They send messages to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a tiny cluster of neurons deep in the brain, which serves as your internal clock. This clock orchestrates countless physiological processes, hormone release, body temperature, sleep cycles, all synchronized with the day-night cycle. But it also scripts your mood. As daylight fades, the brain releases melatonin, the hormone of darkness and rest. This biochemical shift prepares your body for sleep, but also influences emotions. In the absence of light, serotonin levels can drop, ushering in feelings of sadness or lethargy. Seasonal affective disorder, a form of depression linked to reduced sunlight in winter months, exemplifies this biological mood modulation. You might wake one morning feeling inexplicably heavy, not because of any conscious reason, but because the sky whispered a gloomy script into your brain. Your despair, anxiety, or sluggishness might not be your own, but the echo of circadian rhythms reacting to light's subtle cues. This prescripted mood challenges the idea that we are fully in control of our feelings. It reveals that biology often sets the stage before consciousness even steps on. Your mind may craft stories to explain your mood, but underlying those narratives is a biological program running on light's schedule. Consider shift workers or those living in polar regions, where daylight hours are extreme. Their moods fluctuate not by personal events, but by the unnatural light cycles, often requiring intervention like light therapy to reset their internal clocks. Understanding the circadian mood lock empowers you to see mood as partly a biological phenomenon, not a failure of will, not a character flaw, but a rhythm set by nature's clock. It invites compassion for yourself during low times and highlights the importance of light in mental health. Practical steps emerge. Morning sunlight exposure, regular sleep patterns, and light boxes during dark months can help reprogram your mood script. You learn to work with your biology, not against it. So, next time despair creeps in with no clear cause, remember, the sky might be writing your mood for the day. Your feelings are part of a grand ancient rhythm, a dance of light and shadow etched into your very cells. And in this cosmic choreography, you are both dancer and witness, moving to the pulse of a world that whispers its moods through the shifting light. Facial symmetry bias. You trust symmetrical faces because they look healthy. But predators mimic symmetry. Biology taught you to trust masks. From the moment we see a face, our minds engage in rapid, subconscious judgments. One of the most powerful cues we use is facial symmetry. Symmetrical faces are generally perceived as more attractive, healthier, and trustworthy. This bias is deeply rooted in biology. Symmetry often signals genetic fitness and good health, indicators that have helped humans identify reliable allies and mates over millennia. Our brains have evolved to privilege symmetry because it usually correlates with the absence of disease or developmental disturbances. A face that is balanced and proportionate sends a silent message. This individual is strong, viable, and safe. This preference operates quickly and often without conscious awareness, influencing social interactions, mate selection, and trust. But here lies a profound vulnerability. The very signal we rely on for safety and connection can be exploited. Predators, whether literal or metaphorical, have learned to mimic this symmetry, wearing masks of balance and beauty to gain trust and lower defenses. They exploit our ingrained bias, hiding harmful intentions behind faces that appear flawless and genuine. Consider the ways deception operates in human social dynamics. Con artists, manipulative leaders, and dangerous individuals often present themselves with charm, charisma, and outward appearance that aligns with the symmetry bias. Their faces are polished, their expressions controlled, their mannerisms appealing. They wear the mask biology taught us to trust, allowing them to infiltrate social groups and manipulate victims. This phenomenon is not limited to physical appearance, but extends metaphorically to behavior and communication. Just as symmetrical faces hide predatory intentions, smooth words and confident postures can mask manipulation. The mask becomes a multi-layered construct, appearance, demeanor, and speech all tuned to exploit innate biases. Psychologically, this creates a paradox. Our brains are wired to seek and trust symmetry for survival, yet that very wiring can be a liability. It teaches us a lesson about the limits of instinctual trust and the necessity of critical awareness. Understanding facial symmetry bias helps cultivate vigilance without cynicism. It reminds us that trust must be earned beyond appearances through actions, consistency, and deeper connection. It also reveals how evolutionary biology shapes not just attraction, but social vulnerability. In practical terms, recognizing this bias encourages looking beyond surface impressions. It invites you to question snap judgments, to seek evidence over allure, and to develop emotional intelligence that perceives authenticity beneath the mask. In the end, biology taught you to trust masks of symmetry, but wisdom teaches you to look for the truth beneath. The dance between instinct and insight shapes your journey through a world where beauty can be both beacon and disguise. Illness as behavior code. Your body and mind often seem like the masters of your actions, deciding when to move, rest, or respond to the world. But sometimes, that sense of control falters. When you catch a cold, flu, or other illness, your behaviors shift in strange and specific ways. You sneeze repeatedly, your muscles ache, you seek solitude, and your appetite diminishes. These responses feel like your own instinctive choices, designed to help you heal. Yet beneath the surface, a profound biological truth emerges. Some illnesses don't just attack your body, they evolve to manipulate your behavior. Sneezing, moving less, isolating yourself. These are not purely your instincts. They are the virus speaking, a behavior code written in biology that alters how you act for its own survival and transmission. Viruses and pathogens have coexisted with humans for millennia, locked in an evolutionary arms race. Unlike predators that kill outright, many pathogens have developed subtler strategies. They influence the host's behavior to maximize their spread and persistence. Rather than destroying the host quickly, these microbes tweak behavior patterns, like a puppeteer pulling strings, guiding the host's actions to suit their needs. Take sneezing, for example. It seems like a mere reflex, clearing irritants from your nose, but it's also a highly effective viral transmission method. When you sneeze, you spray droplets laden with viruses into the air, infecting others nearby. The virus doesn't just survive inside you, it engineers a behavior, your sneezing, that broadcasts its presence far and wide. Similarly, fatigue and reduced movement are common in infections. Feeling lethargic and withdrawing from activity minimizes your immune system's energy expenditure, helping fight the illness. But from the virus's perspective, encouraging you to stay put may reduce your contact with others, limiting spread. Yet, in some cases, subtle manipulation can balance isolation with moments of contagiousness. Isolation and social withdrawal are behavioral codes linked to sickness. You feel the urge to rest alone, avoiding others. While this can help prevent spreading the disease, some pathogens may use this to avoid detection by the immune system or conserve the host's energy. The virus shapes your mood, appetite, and social drive, embedding instructions in your biology. Mood changes, including depression or anxiety, often accompany illness. These shifts are part of the sickness behavior complex, adaptive changes that reallocate resources toward healing. But viruses can exploit these shifts, altering neurotransmitter systems to influence your actions, sometimes subtly affecting your motivation or social interactions. Research in psychoneuroimmunology explores how immune signaling molecules, like cytokines, affect brain function and behavior during illness. These biochemical messages act as messengers of the illness code, translating the pathogen's presence into changes in mood, cognition, and activity. Beyond viruses, parasites, and bacteria also manipulate behavior. The infamous Toxoplasma gondii infects rodents and alters their fear responses, making them more likely to be caught by cats, the parasite's next host. This vivid example shows how illness can rewrite behavior programs for the pathogen's benefit. Even in humans, illnesses can change eating habits, sleep patterns, and social engagement in ways that seem orchestrated rather than random. These behavioral modifications enhance pathogen survival, replication, and transmission, turning your body into a stage for the illness code to play out. Understanding illness as behavior code reframes how we see sickness. It is not merely a battle between your body and invading microbes, but a complex dialogue where pathogens send biochemical signals that rewrite your behavior scripts. Your instincts are not always yours. Sometimes they are scripted by the invisible organisms within. This insight has practical implications. It highlights why rest, isolation, and altered behavior during sickness are not just symptoms, but evolved strategies. It also suggests potential therapeutic targets. Intervening in the biochemical codes that govern sickness behavior could improve recovery and reduce transmission. Psychologically, recognizing that your behaviors during illness are influenced by pathogens can reduce self-blame and increase compassion for yourself and others. It reveals the intimate connection between biology, behavior, and disease. In a broader sense, this perspective reminds us that humans are ecosystems hosting countless organisms, many of which wield surprising influence over our actions. The boundary between self and other blurs, as illness emerges not just as physical invasion, but as behavioral collaboration. So next time you sneeze, feel drained, or retreat socially while sick, remember, it's not just your instinct acting. The virus is speaking, encoding behavior changes that serve its survival. Your body becomes a canvas where illness paints its behavioral code, an ancient, intricate script written in biology and lived through you. Embracing this understanding deepens our appreciation of the hidden dialogues within, revealing illness not only as adversary, but as a masterful strategist, rewriting the very behaviors we call our own. Comfort dependency, spike. You feel it creeping in, an insidious shift where pleasure is no longer a reward but a necessity, where comfort is demanded, not chosen. This is the comfort dependency spike, a profound biological and psychological phenomenon where your brain's chemistry trains you to seek sedation rather than truth, to avoid discomfort at all costs. Pleasure ceases to be optional, it becomes essential. Comfort chemicals hijack your mind, compelling you to bypass reality whenever it turns unpleasant. Our brains evolved to reward behaviors that enhance survival and well-being. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. These comfort chemicals flood your system in response to positive experiences, reinforcing actions that feel good. But modern life's relentless stresses, uncertainties, and emotional challenges push this system into overdrive. When confronted with unpleasant truths, fear, pain, failure, your biology triggers a desperate need for sedation through pleasure. This dependency spike rewires your brain's reward circuits. Seeking comfort is no longer a healthy balance, but an overriding imperative. It drives you toward distractions, substances, behaviors, or thoughts that numb discomfort and preserve a fragile equilibrium. The pursuit of pleasure becomes a defense mechanism, a biochemical shield against the harshness of reality. Consider the implications. When comfort becomes a biological demand, truth loses its power. Difficult facts are ignored, denied, or rationalized away because facing them threatens the chemical balance your brain craves. This avoidance can hinder growth, healing, and authentic connection. Addiction is a stark illustration. Whether to drugs, food, or technology, the compulsive craving for pleasure reflects a brain rewired by the comfort dependency spike. The body demands sedation. The mind yields, trapped in a cycle of avoidance and temporary relief. Even on subtler levels, this spike influences everyday choices. Comfort-seeking habits, endless scrolling, binge eating, procrastination, mask a deeper struggle to face discomfort. Biology demands sedation, making avoidance feel not only natural but necessary. Yet this mechanism, born of survival, becomes a prison. The comfort that soothes also blinds, sedating awareness and stalling transformation. Breaking free requires conscious effort to tolerate discomfort, embrace truth, and retrain the brain's reward system. Awareness of the comfort dependency. Spike empowers you. It reveals why pleasure can feel like a lifeline and why truth sometimes feels unbearable. Understanding this biological demand is the first step toward reclaiming balance, choosing discomfort when necessary, seeking growth over sedation. In the dance between pleasure and pain, biology may demand sedation, but your consciousness holds the power to respond differently. You can learn to welcome discomfort as a gateway to deeper understanding rather than fleeing into comfort's seductive embrace. So, next time you find yourself chasing comfort relentlessly, remember, it's not just habit, it's biology's spike demanding sedation. But within that knowledge lies the strength to choose truth, even when it feels unpleasant, because growth, meaning, and freedom come not from sedation, but from courage. The language thought loop. Language is the invisible architecture shaping the very contours of your mind. It is more than a tool for communication. It is the framework through which your thoughts take form and direction. This is the essence of the language thought loop. What you cannot name, you cannot question. Your biology, entwined with language, has trapped your mind behind the walls of syntax, silently constraining the freedom of your inner world. From early childhood, language molds your perception of reality. Words carve out categories, assign labels, and create distinctions. These linguistic categories become mental fences, guiding what you notice, how you interpret experience, and ultimately, what you believe is possible to think. If something has no name, it remains invisible to thought, an uncharted territory beyond conscious exploration. Consider how complex feelings or abstract concepts often evade articulation. You might sense a nuanced emotion, but without the language to capture it, it lingers unexamined, elusive. Without words, you cannot easily bring it into focus, analyze it, or challenge it. Language acts as both lantern and cage, illuminating some paths while blocking others. This wiring is biological as much as cultural. Neural circuits dedicated to language processing shape cognitive pathways, reinforcing habitual thought patterns tied to grammar and vocabulary. Syntax, the rules organizing words into meaningful sequences, structures not only speech but the architecture of reasoning itself. Your brain learns to think in these patterns, often unconsciously confining thought within linguistic borders. Philosophers have long debated language's power and limits. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis suggests that language shapes cognition and worldview, a claim supported by cross-linguistic studies showing how speakers of different tongues perceive reality differently. Some emotions, colors, or spatial concepts exist in certain languages but not others, affecting how their speakers experience the world. This looping effect means that your ability to question, to doubt, and to innovate is tethered to your linguistic repertoire. If your language lacks words for particular states or ideas, those concepts remain out of reach for critical thought. You are trapped in a cycle. Language frames thought, and thought is confined by language. This entrapment has profound implications. It influences identity, culture, and knowledge itself. Scientific revolutions often begin with the invention of new terminology that enables thinkers to articulate previously inaccessible concepts. Similarly, personal growth can hinge on finding the right words to name inner experiences, unlocking new understanding. But the language thought loop is not absolute prison. Awareness of this constraint opens avenues for liberation. Poets, artists, and mystics have long sought to break free, using metaphor, paradox, and silence to transcend linguistic limits. Meditation practices encourage moving beyond words to direct experience, glimpsing realities beyond syntax. Moreover, learning new languages or expanding your vocabulary expands your cognitive horizons, providing new mental tools to navigate complexity. Engaging with multiple languages can loosen the grip of any single linguistic framework, fostering flexibility and creativity in thought. In daily life, recognizing the language thought loop invites mindfulness about how language shapes your beliefs and judgments. It encourages questioning the assumptions embedded in the words you use and seeking clarity beyond habitual expressions. Your mind is a vast landscape, but language maps only parts of it. The edges of your inner world remain obscured, hidden behind syntax's gates. Yet, the very act of naming, questioning, and exploring those limits is the first step toward mental freedom. So, next time you struggle to grasp a thought or feel stuck in a pattern, ask, what words am I missing? What concepts have yet to be named? The path beyond the language thought loop begins with curiosity and the courage to push past linguistic boundaries. In the interplay between language and mind lies both the power and the paradox of human cognition, where your biology shapes thought, but your awareness can transcend it. Your mind is both trapped and free, bounded by syntax, yet capable of breaking through. Eye color threat, bias. Your eyes meet someone's gaze and instantly a silent conversation unfolds. Not with words, but with primal signals etched deep in your biology. Without conscious choice, you respond differently to their eye color. This is the eye color threat bias, an ancient survival code written into your nervous system by your ancestors, shaping how you perceive friend and foe through iris interpretation. Long before spoken language, humans communicated danger and trust through subtle visual cues. Eyes, windows to the soul, also served as beacons for threat detection. Our ancestors lived in perilous environments where rapid unconscious judgments could mean the difference between life and death. Eye color, along with gaze direction and pupil size, became vital data points in this split-second assessment. Studies reveal that people often react differently to individuals based solely on eye color, a reaction outside their conscious control. For example, darker or lighter irises can trigger different levels of perceived trustworthiness, dominance, or threat, responses rooted in evolutionary pressures rather than cultural stereotypes. Consider early human tribes dispersed across diverse regions. Eye color variations emerged due to genetic drift and environmental factors. Groups learned to associate certain eye hues with familiar kin or potential outsiders. This biological bias created survival advantages, quickly favoring those who resembled the group and warily scrutinizing those who didn't. Neuroscience shows these reactions activate the amygdala, the brain's ancient threat detector. It processes visual information instantly, igniting fear or caution when encountering unfamiliar eye colors. This process bypasses rational thought, emerging from deep subconscious programming shaped by millennia of human interaction. Modern implications are profound and troubling. Though society champions equality, this deep-rooted bias subtly influences social dynamics, trust, and even conflict. Eye color can unconsciously affect hiring decisions, interpersonal relationships, and judicial outcomes, demonstrating how ancient biology silently molds modern behavior. Real-world examples abound. Police officers might perceive threat levels differently based on eye color, affecting split-second decisions. People often report feeling inexplicably uneasy or comfortable with someone's gaze without understanding why. These feelings reflect the eye color threat, bias in action, yet this bias is not destiny. Awareness allows us to question and override these automatic responses. Conscious reflection, education, and cultural exchange weaken biological programming's grip. Understanding the origins of this bias is the first step toward dismantling it. Your nervous system's response to eye color is a testament to human evolution's complexity. It reveals how survival instincts continue to whisper beneath layers of civilization, influencing thoughts and actions beyond your conscious will. So next time you meet someone's gaze and feel an instant reaction, remember, it may not be your choice. It's the echo of your ancestors' struggles, a hidden code written into the iris of survival. By bringing this bias into light, you reclaim control, transforming ancient instinct into conscious connection. The eyes may be windows to the soul, but they are also mirrors reflecting the deep, sometimes shadowed roots of who we are. Stress memory enhancement. You remember traumatic events more clearly, but that clarity is distorted, chemically enhanced to trap you inside the event. This phenomenon, known as stress memory enhancement, is a paradox at the heart of human memory and trauma. On one hand, trauma etches itself deeply into your mind, creating vivid, seemingly indelible memories. On the other hand, this vividness is not a faithful recording of reality, but a chemically amplified and distorted replay that can imprison you within the past. Today we dive into the science and psychology behind how stress reshapes memory, turning clarity into a double-edged sword. When you experience a traumatic event, An accident, assault, sudden loss. Your body floods with stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine. These chemicals act as survival signals, heightening your senses and focusing your attention on immediate danger. Evolutionarily, this sharp focus was essential. It increased the likelihood of survival by imprinting critical details for future avoidance. Your brain essentially says, remember this moment with utmost clarity. Never forget, so you can protect yourself. Indeed, studies show that under extreme stress, certain memories become intensely vivid. You might recall the precise color of a car, the sound of a voice, or the exact sequence of events with startling detail. This phenomenon is often called flashbulb memory. It feels as if your mind took a high-resolution snapshot of the traumatic moment. But this clarity comes at a cost. The stress hormones that enhance memory formation also interfere with the way memories are processed and stored. Instead of a coherent narrative, the memory becomes fragmented, with some details exaggerated and others suppressed. The chemical surge biases the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for organizing memories, resulting in distorted recollections. Imagine watching a movie where the scenes flicker erratically, some moments replayed in slow motion with amplified sound, others missing entirely. This is the subjective experience of traumatic memory. The event becomes stuck in a loop of vivid re-experiencing, dissociated from a linear timeline, often triggered involuntarily by sights, sounds, or smells. This chemical distortion traps you inside the event, making it difficult to move forward. The brain's survival system, designed to protect, paradoxically keeps you tethered to danger long after it has passed. This is central to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, where intrusive memories and heightened arousal interfere with daily life. Examples abound in clinical and anecdotal contexts. Veterans may hear a sudden noise and be overwhelmed by flashbacks of combat. Survivors of accidents recount sensory details with painful precision, reliving trauma in their minds. Even ordinary individuals recalling emotionally charged arguments or losses find their memories colored by heightened intensity and fragmentation. The emotional charge linked to these memories further complicates processing. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, interacts with memory circuits to reinforce the emotional tone. This means that even when the factual accuracy of a memory fades, the emotional intensity remains high, perpetuating anxiety and avoidance. Interestingly, not all aspects of traumatic memory are enhanced. Some peripheral details are forgotten or altered, as the brain prioritizes survival-relevant information. This selective distortion can lead to confusion, disbelief, or guilt about what was remembered or omitted. Understanding stress memory enhancement sheds light on why trauma can be so debilitating and resistant to forgetting. It also informs therapeutic approaches aimed at helping individuals regain control over their memories. Techniques like trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, and pharmacological interventions seek to reprocess distorted memories, reduce emotional charge, and restore coherence. On a deeper level, this phenomenon reveals the complexity of memory itself, not as a perfect record, but as a living, dynamic process shaped by biology and emotion. It shows how your brain balances the need to remember danger with the necessity to heal and adapt. In your own life, recognizing that vivid traumatic memories are chemically enhanced and distorted can foster compassion and patience. It reminds you that these memories are not failures of mind or character, but natural responses to extraordinary stress. It invites you to seek understanding, support, and healing. So next time a traumatic memory surfaces with overwhelming clarity, remember, it is both a beacon and a trap, illuminated by survival's harsh light, but warped by the chemistry of fear. And within this understanding lies the possibility of breaking free, rewriting the narrative, and reclaiming your peace beyond the past. Emotion leak protocol. You might think emotions are private experiences, locked safely inside your mind, personal and contained. But what if your feelings don't stay confined to you? What if one person's sadness or joy doesn't just ripple metaphorically, but literally leaks into the atmosphere, influencing the emotional state of everyone around them? This startling idea, known as the emotion leak protocol, suggests that emotions spread biologically, almost like airborne viruses, infecting rooms, crowds, and communities with invisible waves of mood that shape collective experience. Science has long studied emotional contagion, the phenomenon where people unconsciously mimic and absorb the feelings of others. When someone laughs, smiles, or cries, those expressions often trigger corresponding emotions in observers. But recent research reveals this process is far more than social imitation. It involves biological signals that transmit emotional states across individuals. One key pathway is through micro-expressions and subtle body language. Your brain is exquisitely tuned to detect fleeting facial cues and gestures, often below conscious awareness. These cues activate mirror neuron systems, causing you to internally simulate the observed emotion. This neural mirroring is a biological mechanism that makes emotional states contagious. Beyond visual signals, vocal tones, breathing patterns, and even pheromones play roles in emotion transmission. A trembling voice can stir anxiety. Heavy sighs may evoke melancholy. Certain chemical signals released through sweat or breath carry mood information, subtly influencing the biochemistry of nearby people. This biochemical communication acts like an emotional scent wafting through the air. Studies measuring physiological responses in groups confirm that moods synchronize in social settings. Heart rates, skin conductance, and brainwave patterns align, creating a shared emotional atmosphere. When one person's sadness deepens, it can pull others into a similar state, even without spoken words. This emotion leak protocol explains why some environments feel heavy or light, vibrant or tense, as if the mood is a palpable presence. Crowds at concerts, workplaces under stress, or families in grief all exhibit these collective emotional shifts, driven by biological resonance rather than mere suggestion. Psychologically, emotional leakage shapes empathy and social bonding. Sharing feelings biologically enhances connection and group cohesion, aiding cooperation and mutual support. But it also means emotions can spread like wildfire, sometimes overwhelming individuals or escalating conflicts. Awareness of this protocol offers both caution and power. Being around chronic negativity or despair can drain your energy as moods infect you involuntarily. Conversely, radiating calm, joy, or confidence can uplift and stabilize others. Your emotional state is both a personal experience and a communal force. Modern technology and virtual communication challenge this dynamic. Without physical presence, the richness of emotional leakage diminishes, affecting empathy and social understanding. This underscores the biological roots of emotional contagion embedded in our species' evolution. Recognizing emotions as airborne viruses redefines mental health and social dynamics. It highlights the importance of managing personal emotions, not just for self-care, but for the well-being of those around you. It also suggests new avenues for therapy and social intervention, targeting emotional ecosystems rather than isolated individuals. In everyday life, this means cultivating emotional awareness and regulation becomes an act of communal responsibility. Mindfulness, breathing exercises, and emotional hygiene can help contain and direct these leaks, fostering healthier social environments. So, next time you walk into a room and feel a sudden shift in mood, unease, warmth, excitement, consider that you are breathing an emotional atmosphere shaped by others' internal states. Emotions leak biologically, invisible yet powerful, infecting minds and hearts like viruses carried on the air. The emotion leak protocol reveals that mood is not confined within skin and bone. It is a living, breathing contagion, a biological wave linking us all in a shared ocean of feeling. Embrace this understanding to navigate your social world with greater compassion, awareness, and grace. Because in the end, emotions are not just what you feel, they are what you transmit, infecting the very air around you, weaving an invisible web that binds us all.